certainly right enough.
And for more on this, I want to bring in legal analyst Mackenzie Brennan. Good to see you in person.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So Diddy's legal team celebrating, saying this is mostly a win. He still does face jail time, but speak about the fact that they didn't get him on that top charge. How much of a win is it for the defense here?
It's a big win for the defense. Frankly, RICO was always a long shot. Obviously, we know about it from mob prosecutions back in the day, so it's not designed for cases like this. But there was a question of applying it to multiple crimes. And the thing about RICO is that it allowed the prosecution to bring in evidence of all these state crimes that maybe had run the statute of limitations, that weren't fully provable, things like drugs and gun evidence. Kid Cudi's arson, for example, you wouldn't be able to bring in those bad acts without sweeping everything together with this RICO charge. So some folks even think that it was a strategy by the prosecution to add this really high charge that allows you to sweep in everything, and then they would get the sex trafficking. Of course, they didn't get that either, and that's, I think, the real disappointment and surprise.
A lot of people expected Diddy to walk free yesterday. That did not happen. Take us through the thinking here. Why did the judge not allow that request for bail to go through?
I think we're really seeing the shift between the power that the jury has to render the verdict itself and the judge's discretion in things like bail and sentencing. And bail and sentencing are going to be pretty tied together because we're seeing the first glimpse of what the judge really thinks about Diddy's guilt in this case. And what he ended up saying was he invoked the defense's own words, saying that you guys have owned the domestic violence. They said, you know, there was a quote in their closing statement that said, we own that this guy is a domestic abuser. And the judge said domestic violence is violence. And it was the reason that we kept him in here pending trial. There's no reason to change it now. You haven't shown me any evidence of reform. And the prosecution, the judge actually cited this from the prosecution's argument, that one of the accused attacks that Diddy committed against victim Jane actually happened after he was under federal investigation. So if they're saying that there's reform, I mean, his lawyer said he went to a domestic violence class. That didn't prevent at least this one attack, and Cassie's lawyers also spoke out against it.
So what sense does that give you in terms of sentencing? Of course, each of these two counts can hold a 10-year sentence each, and realistically, it doesn't sound like most legal analysts think that anything near that is going to be what happens here.
No, it sounds like the prosecution actually isn't even seeking that high. I thought they would go for a little closer to the max, especially when there's sort of a justice-minded compensation that could happen. But they are, I believe, seeking 4 to 5 years, and the fact that the judge didn't release Diddy on bail does make me think that the judge will err more on that side of things, because if he was going to let him off with time served, this will land him in jail for about a year, with him staying in jail to the next hearing. So if the judge were erring more on the lesser side, it seems like he would be more inclined to potentially let him go. That's just speculation, but we'll see.
Where does a verdict like this land in terms of the cultural ramifications here? Because the Me Too era was such a moment, and now you have a situation like this where two accusers come forward and they don't get exactly what the prosecution is seeking. What kind of ramifications do you think that has?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty big blow. I think the fact that the Me Too movement was invoked by Sean Combs' defense team, saying that this was a Me Too money grab, even though it's a civil case with this is the criminal case with no civil penalties. That this was pointedly their strategy, was to vilify the movement along with the victims themselves. And I tend to think that a zealous defense of somebody like Combs wouldn't require vilifying the victims quite like they did. But yeah, it's certainly sobering, and I think the fact that the jury was primarily male, the largest demographic, 5 out of the 12 were men over 50, and the white men in the jury, I saw some of them laughing at the defense's closing. So it's clear that some of the making light landed with them.
Well, much more to come, of course, with sentencing. Mackenzie Brennan, good to talk to you. Thank you for your analysis.
Thank you so much for having me.
The city is gearing up for tomorrow's Macy's 4th of July fireworks show with